right, welcome back, grade 9s. Yesterday I had you read this website on environmental concerns, and as we continue chapter 8, we're going to take another peek at this website. So I asked you to look through the 25 environmental concerns and try to prioritize them into what you saw as the most urgent 3 to address, and if by addressing them maybe it can create some kind of momentum that we can use to address some of the other ones. So a quick peek, what is an environmental concern? Our Mother Earth is facing multiple environmental concerns right now. Environmental problems include things like global warming, acid rain, air pollution, urban sprawl, waste disposal, ozone layer depletion, water pollution, climate change, and many, many other things that are externalities of the human life and our ecological footprints of human life. So, over the past decades, the exploitation of our planet and the degradation of our environment has gone up at an alarming rate as our actions have been not in favor of protecting this planet. We have seen natural disasters striking us much more often. We have flash floods, earthquakes, blizzards, tsunamis, and cyclones. And the website offered us this very grim look at a garbage dump, for lack of a better word. Waste treatment plant, waste treatment facility might be more attractive words, but it looks like a garbage dump. The seagulls seem to like it. So my fear looking at this picture is just that whole idea of a pandemic coming from seagulls and being passed on to us, because there's definitely lots of seagulls around. So, sooner or later, we have to recognize that the Earth has rights too, to live without pollution. What mankind must know is that human beings cannot live without Mother Earth, but the planet can live without humans. So this is the type of quote that I will throw back at you on Monday for our evaluation, because that quote has an ideological perspective that is quite clear, and that ideological perspective is that environmentalism needs to be paramount in our decision making, that we need to take environmental concerns into consideration when we're planning our economic activities. So the 25 brutal environmental concerns that you should definitely know about. Number 1, they talk about air pollution. So there are some cities like Los Angeles. If you look at Los Angeles and the smog that they had in the 70s and 80s, and you look at the skyline of Los Angeles today, you have a city that has figured it out to some extent, that the air quality in Los Angeles is better now than it was then. And if you take pictures, if you look at pictures of Los Angeles then and now, it's amazing. In Los Angeles now, you can see the mountains, and before you couldn't. So little things like that are possible. You know, we can make a change with air pollution. I remember in 2008 when we went to Beijing, you couldn't see, the sky was this orange color, and you couldn't really see much into the horizon. And many of the locals said, well, this is because of sand coming off the desert. But in reality, it was air pollution. They didn't want to own up to it because it's an embarrassing externality of our economic activities. It's an embarrassing consequence of what we're up to. So pollution of air, water, and soil takes a huge number of years to recover. Industry and engine vehicles, fumes are the most obvious toxins. So living in a global planet where we consume things that come to us from thousands of kilometers away, a logical solution would be to consume locally. That if one of the biggest contributors to air pollution is transportation, and if one of the biggest things being transported is the goods we can consume, then maybe we need to consume less and consume locally. And that's the next level of social studies you're moving towards is globalization. But to some extent, people are deglobalizing. They're saying, you know what, we need to stop importing beef from Brazil. You know, there's a cost to the planet of exporting that beef from Brazil to Alberta. We've got lots of Alberta beef. Alberta beef's amazing. Let's eat that first. Even if somebody in Brazil can grow the beef for cheaper, and even at the complicated process, they can get it to us for a cheaper price, what's not being factored in is the cost to the environment. So many people say things like consuming locally may be a solution to air pollution. With air comes water pollution, and much like air and water, this is our biosphere, And although we are beginning to find other areas in the known universe that may be livable, we don't have an exit strategy for this planet anytime soon. So it's in our best interest to ensure that the water that surrounds us is drinkable. Because next to air, water is our most vital need. That you can go minutes without air and maybe a few days without water, and then we die. So clean water is in everyone's best interest. And it turns out that although the planet is it's close to 70% water, the majority of that water is not drinkable. So there's a finite amount of drinkable clean water, and Canada is actually in a position of luxury here, is that we have a lot of drinkable water, and that may help us avoid the problem short term, but even within Canada, we have many communities that have undrinkable water. So clean water is and remains a concern. More than 1 billion people a day in the world have not access to clean water. So we have lots of people that are literally dying because they can't access clean water. Something we probably take for granted. They would not take for granted. Soil and land pollution. Land pollution simply means we're degrading the Earth's surface as a result of our human activities, mining, littering, deforestation. So there's activities here that you can make a difference. Sometimes social studies is very frustrating because you're like, well, what am I going to do to stop this? Not a whole lot I can do there. But there's day-to-day stuff that you can do differently to stop that. Every time that you litter personally, you're basically making a choice to degrade the Earth's surface. Every time that you decide to, you know what, let's just go grab some branches from that tree and just rip them down, that's fun. That's also tying into deforestation. In a small way, but everything adds up. Climate change is yet another environmental concern that has surfaced in the last couple of decades. Environmental change has different destructive impacts that include, but not limited to, the melting of polar ice, change in seasons, new sicknesses, and change in the general climate. So sitting here in central Alberta, we might be saying, hey, climate change might be to our benefit. You know, winters are shorter, growing seasons are longer, but what we're not considering is that underneath those thousands of years of ice, there's pandemics that we have no immunity to. So see how COVID-19 has changed our reality. There are things that are trapped underneath that ice that, as the ice melts and we have global warming, are quite alarming to us, that we will not be able to escape. Global warming itself, environmental asset abuse, is also an important environmental concern. Fossil fuel utilization brings about the discharge of greenhouse gases, which causes environmental change. However, individuals are taking endeavors to make and to move in more renewable directions. Deforestation and logging is a concern, because it turns out we need oxygen to breathe. And the trees play a vital role in that oxygen system of this planet. And at present, timberlands cover 30% of the area, but wooded areas are being lost on a regular basis because people are looking for homes, food, and materials. Deforestation is a huge problem. There's an area larger than a football field being cut every second in the Amazon, and that's the lungs of the earth. And honestly, there could be a time in your life where wearing an oxygen mask is a requirement all the time because we were foolish enough to cut down the trees. What will this earth look like? It could look like a toxic waste dump if we don't become stewards of the planet. A lot less grows in that condition. Temperature increases like climate change are the consequence of human practices, including the use of greenhouse gases. When the atmosphere changes and the heat increases, it can also cause a number of problems like increased carbon footprints. So our increased carbon footprints is it's driving some of this greenhouse change. And once the climate warms, some of the warming creates more warming. It creates a cycle. Genetic modification is a concern. Genetic modification utilizing biotech is called genetic engineering. Genetic engineering of foods brings about expanded poisons and sicknesses as qualities from a hypersensitive plant can exchange to a target plant. So, effects on marine life, I believe we're down to like 5% of the original blue been tuna in the Pacific Ocean. So we are driving some marine life into extinction. And it's not only just the fish we eat, it's the plankton that may be even more critical than trees for our oxygen system cycle that are critical there. Public health issues, because we have dirty water, because we have lack of proper sanitation, we still have issues like cholera and malaria and other infectious diseases around the world. Maybe all of these things are tied to one issue, and that's overpopulation. If we didn't have 8 billion people, if we had 1 billion, maybe our lives would be quite sustainable. But because we have 8 billion people, and because that might max out at 9, could max out at 10, could max out at 12, then our demands upon this planet are only increasing. We also are living in an age of mass extinction. Since 1970, we've seen at least half of all the species on Earth in decline. Some have even said all of the species on Earth are in decline. And this is the biggest mass extinction that we've seen since before the last ice age 12,000 years ago. So because of habitat loss and deforestation, overpopulation, pollution, global warming, we're seeing an effect on animals. And you may be saying, okay, who cares if we lose the, woolly mammoth? Well, unfortunately, everything in an ecosystem is interconnected. And when you remove one of the vital components, like a woolly mammoth, sometimes that entire ecosystem begins to break down. We have household waste, we have industrial waste, and a lot of this waste is poisoning the drinking water, and it's poisoning the air as it runs off. Ozone depletion is less of a concern than it once was, because we identified the problem with CFCs and we started to address it. But when ozone depletion was even a bigger problem than it is today, we saw a spike in things like skin cancers and stuff like that. Mining results in the extraction of minerals from the Earth's core. These minerals also bring out harmful chemicals from deep inside the Earth, which can toxify the air, water, and soil. There's some mining very similar to what you'd see in Alberta's north. Natural resource depletion. We are at least at peak oil and maybe past. We are running on fossil fuels that are non-renewable, and they are the lifeblood of our economy. If your lifeblood is non-renewable and you're using it up, you should be thinking of what kind of artificial transfusion can we have next. I've already mentioned natural disasters are a key problem. Within your lifetime, about 5 years ago in Japan, we saw a nuclear meltdown, nuclear reactor, and we have lots of potential for more nuclear issues like that. Or we even have the potential, as unlikely as it sounds, of nuclear fallout from a nuclear war. Loss of animals, we talked about. Acid rain seems less significant than it once was. Agricultural pollution, all of the fertilizers and pesticides and herbicides that have been added to our soil to increase crop yields seem to be toxifying the environment. We've got light and noise pollution. People live in cities and they can't see the stars. People live in cities and they have no darkness at night. This is affecting us at a psychological and a sociological level. And even noise pollution. Can you get away from it? Andres, are you with me? Are you? Urban sprawl alludes to the relocation of the populace from high thickness. Disposable of medical waste. What do we do with those tubes and blades and blood and body parts and many other things? And finally, littering in landforms. So I'm going to come by and I want to see what were your top 3. What are your top 3 concerns for the future, and why are they your top 3 concerns? So I'm going to come by in a minute and I want you to show me what your top 3 are that you think, if we address these 3 first, it may spiral into a pattern of success that can help other areas.